what you need to know to innovate and launch a startup, what investors might be looking for, how to get people enchanted with your idea, and how you can change the world, which we know you all. So welcome, Kai.
All right, thank you.
Laptops in, so
Yeah, unless you're taking
listen up.
furiously taking notes. So yeah, a little bit of my background. I worked for Apple. I was Apple's software evangelist. This is '83 to '87, before you were born. And I left Apple. I started some software companies. I returned to Apple as Apple's chief evangelist. Started more software companies. Became a writer, speaker, advised Motorola. I am chief evangelist of this company right now, which is a Sydney-based startup to enable people to do online graphics. Think of it as a fast, free, and easy version of Photoshop. And about a month ago, I was appointed to the board of trustees of Wikimedia, which is the parent organization of Wikipedia. So I'm kind of on the board of directors of Wikipedia. And that's my checkered past. I went here from 72 to 76. I applied to business school here, got rejected. So I'll never look back. That's why I'll never speak at the business school. I'll speak for Ed, but I won't go down there. And my background is primarily marketing, evangelism, sales, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty well versed in entrepreneurship and venture capital. So, did you already have your guest VC?
No, that's next week.
Oh, and who is this going to be?
Russ Siegelman.
From Kleiner?
Formerly of Kleiner.
Okay. So, what do you want to talk about? Ask me questions. This is a rare occasion that I don't have to do a prepared keynote. So, yeah.
What does an evangelist do?
Evangelism comes from Greek words meaning bringing the good news. So, an evangelist for Christianity brings the good news of eternal life. An evangelist for Macintosh brings the good news of increased productivity and creativity. Evangelist for Canva brings the good news that Canva is democratizing design. So, generally speaking, bringing the good news. I would make the case that evangelism is the purest form of sales, because whereas most sales is concerned with their personal quota, making the quarter, making budget, closing a sale, commission, evangelism is a pure form because the goal of evangelism is to help the other person. So when you are an evangelist for Macintosh, it's because you believe that the other person should use a Macintosh to become more creative and productive, as opposed to I need to make my commission from Apple. Very different orientation. Now, this is not to say that you can't work for Apple and also profit from the sale of a Macintosh, but at least a significant portion of your motivation should be your belief that you are bringing good news to people, not simply ramming something down their throat. That's why it's very difficult if you're a Macintosh evangelist. Microsoft called you up and said, be an evangelist for Windows. That's a hard sell because Windows is not good news. So that's what evangelism is. What else? Yes?
So I was hoping that you'd be able to share some examples, either that you have or others, of a company that doesn't necessarily have a product that is differentiated from its competitors, but is targeting a specific demographic that its competitors haven't targeted.
Well, in a sense, there are many ways to differentiate a product or a service, including features, which is the typical way. But it is also very viable to target a different market with the same product. So, that might not be the macho way, but I think it's completely viable. And one obvious way is geographically, right? So, there's eBay hasn't exactly made inroads in China, right? So you could take the eBay model and apply it to China. So that would be one way. You could have, this is an extreme example, but you could have a Tinder version for old people. I say this is a stretch. So yeah, absolutely you could do that. I think one of the lessons I learned is that at the time that you hear a pitch or you hear of an idea, it's very difficult to ascertain whether that idea will truly be successful. Quite frankly, I think it's basically dog shit luck. Because, just give you some examples. So suppose that someone pitched you, 10, 12 years ago, you're going to make an online site for people to share video. You need infinite server space. You need infinite bandwidth. People are going to upload illegally obtained video. And what's going to make you tip is when people start dropping Mentos into Diet Cokes. Okay, so who in this room would give your monopoly money to YouTube? If you heard the original pitch for eBay and you'd say, I would ask Pierre Mignard, so you're telling me people are going to sell printers via the internet, right? So if you're buying the printer, how do you know it works? And if you're selling the printer, how do you know that you're going to get paid and the person's not going to say I never got it and fight the charge on Visa? So I think that's two pretty fundamental problems with eBay, right? So you wouldn't think eBay would succeed. Twitter, did the world need a way to post 140-character text message that your cat rolled over? I mean, there was text messaging already, there was email, there was chat, IRC. Why did the world need Twitter? And you just go down the line. I almost kind of believe that you should take the dumbest idea you hear and try to fund that, and try to do that, because some of these ideas are so stupid. On the other hand, well, it may be better to be lucky than smart. That's number one. On the other hand, there's also the opposite case, where you have this really great idea and it's got proven management and proven funds and proven everything, and it totally implodes. An example of that would be Webvan. So Webvan was an idea of selling groceries online, founded by Louis Borders of Borders Bookstore, proven entrepreneur, right? It created this fantastic chain of bookstores. They hired people from I think it's Anderson Consulting, so they had proven management, they had $400 million in funds, everybody's got to order groceries, proven market potential, and the thing just totally imploded. So what I'm trying to tell you, it's very hard. And the way venture capitalists do it, if they were honest, is they basically make 20 bets, 1 or 2 are successful, and they say, yeah, I knew that was a good team, I knew that was a good market, I knew that was a good technology. And if you ask them, well, then why'd you also invest in Webvan? And they would say, well, my partners did that deal. So, truly the way it works in Silicon Valley, and you need to embrace this, is you throw a dart on the wall, you go up to the wall, you paint the bullseye around it, you say, I hit the bullseye. That's how it works, truly. Don't kid yourself, that's how it works. Okay. What else? Yes?
What are some of the more memorable hooks that you got there?
Good ones, or pitches, or hooks?
Hooks.
You mean that worked, obviously?
Yeah, well, yeah. Or the ones that didn't work, but you remember them.
Well, let me tell you the secret to a good pitch. Okay. Several analogies. So, not that I'm obsessed with online dating, but in online dating, there's 2 extremes, right? So at one side is eHarmony, and you have to figure out, you have to honestly answer, are you clever, are you artistic, are you, whatever, right? Because you're going to find your soulmate, you're going to walk hand in hand on windswept beaches, drinking white wine for the rest of your life, repeating each other's sentences. That's the purpose of eHarmony. At the other extreme, there's Tinder. Hot, not, right? So, I'm telling you that pitching is like Tinder. It's not eHarmony. You're not going to find your freaking soulmate on Sand Hill where you're going to complete each other's sentences, right? Hot, not. That's all it is. So that's one metaphor to keep in mind. A second metaphor is, well, that really is the best one. Because that also ties into the concept of the elevator pitch, right? So, you really do have about, I'd say, 3 to 5 minutes to convince an audience. You may have an hour, but you're going to win it or lose it in the first 3 to 5 minutes. And the next 55 minutes is either them being polite, or they're trying to find out more information to convince themselves that their initial positive reaction was positive. I think Ross and many VCs will tell you they're looking for a proven team with proven technology and a proven market. And if you think about it, that does not describe Apple, that does not describe YouTube, Cisco, Google, Yahoo. Frankly, I can't think of a company that describes, right? So if you think of all those companies, were the team proven? Not at all, right? Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, proven team? I don't think so. Right? Larry and Sergey, PhD students, computer science, clearly fast chip, lots of RAM, good hard disk, right? Clearly, smart people. But were they proven business people? Not at all. The business model of selling ads based on inbound links, who the hell ever heard of that before, right? So you just go down the line. Basically, the companies that succeed are unproven teams in unproven markets with unproven technology, which is the total antithesis of what a venture capitalist would say. So then you might ask, well, why does a venture capitalist say that? Because a venture capitalist is in the business of taking money from one pocket, putting it temporarily in their pocket, then investing it, hoping that they will then refill their pocket, right? So they need to get people who are limited partners to invest in their fund. So imagine you're a limited partner from a pension fund or an insurance plan, and you're sitting on $10 billion, and you need to put some in land, some in stock, some in mutual funds, some in private equity. And so you listen to all these VCs pitch about why you should put your $100 million in Kleiner Perkins or Sequoia, and the person from Sequoia stands up and says, well, we believe in unproven teams and unproven markets and unproven technology. That's not conducive to you wanting to give that guy $100 million. So everybody has to say, looking for proven teams, proven markets, proven things. So I think the best pitch is that you bootstrap your company. I think basically for a tech company, almost everything you need today is fast, free, or cheap. You don't need to buy roomfuls of servers anymore. You call up Amazon, you call up Rackspace, you call up GoDaddy. You pay $1,000 a month and you have terabytes in the sky. So you don't need to pay for infrastructure. Your teams are virtual. You don't need office space. You use social media for marketing. The only place you should spend money on social media is promoting Facebook posts, and that's really cost effective. You don't pay for tools anymore, right? You stole the tool from Stanford, or you're using shareware, but you're not calling up Oracle and saying, Mr. Ellison, can I buy $1 million license for Oracle, SQL? So basically, everything is fast or free, or free or cheap. So you show up with a prototype that's already working, and you say, all right, so me and my buddy at Stanford, we decided that there's a market for Huddle or something, right? So using Stanford's hosting and the tools we got in class and all this in social media, lo and behold, we launched Huddle, and to our utmost surprise, 5,000 people are signing up every day now, right? And so we need capital because we can't handle all the traffic and we can't handle all the business opportunities. We need to hire some people who are really salespeople, understand channels, understand marketing. So we need money to expand, money to host, money to reap the fortune that we have, stumbled upon. That is very different pitch than, well, we need $2 million and 1 year, trust us, we're great programmers. So the best pitch is to show up with the dogs already eating the food. And I would also make the case, if you can, even better than that, is to never try to raise money. That if you could somehow figure out how you can monetize some aspect of Huddle, whatever way you can, so you never have to ask for money, that is the ultimate goal. Because venture capital is like crack. It makes you feel really good for a while, but ultimately it can kill you. And venture capitalists are crack dealers. So they want you to take this. So don't tell Russ Siegelman I said that, but he's your dealer. So the ultimate pitch is to show up with a working prototype that the dogs are eating. That's the ultimate pitch. In a perfect world, you'd have a 10-slide PowerPoint presentation. Your first slide would explain what exactly you do in the first 30 seconds. Second slide would explain the problem that you're serving. Third slide would be, this is our underlying technology. Now let me show you a demo. And then the demo works so well that there's so many interactive questions, you never get through slide 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. You just throw the meeting completely off. That's the perfect pitch, that you never get to the rest of the slides. Because as you go deeper into your deck, your slide is going to get more and more bullshit. Right? So you're going to have to talk about how your team is proven, which is totally bullshit, because you're all Stanford undergrads, you're not proven at all. You have to blow smoke about that. So you'd like to avoid all that. What else? That's all you need to know. Yes.
What excites you and frustrates you most about like this whole startup culture that you speak about?
Well, what excites me now is the fact that everything is free or cheap, and so it's much more, I think, of a meritocracy. So it's a meritocracy because more people can start companies, and now this doesn't mean that necessarily there's going to be more good companies. It could be that more companies are started, but we still get the same number of successes. But at least everybody has a shot, and it's not dependent upon you being a trust fund baby, or your father happens to play golf with someone on Sand Hill. It's because two guys in a garage, two gals in a garage, guy and a gal in a garage or a dorm room, they got all these free tools, they got this free hosting, they got this free social media, and they created this app, and lo and behold, it succeeded. It's not because they went to Dartmouth or Stanford or whatever. It's because they did something good. So that excites me the most. I'm not really frustrated, so I don't have any bummers for you. Yeah.
Do you think we're in a bubble right now when it comes to valuations around?
Certainly, we're in a bubble right now, and that's okay. I mean, you should encourage a bubble. You actually want a bubble. Key to a bubble is when you're in the bubble, you have to realize you're in the bubble, so you understand you need to get out. Okay, that's the key. So it's like all these movies you watch, and there's a movie with is it Mark? What's the gambler? Mark Wahlberg, right? So he's this gambler, right? And like he gets like $500,000 up, but he just wants to bet everything every time, and you're just sitting there saying, "Kid, you're so stupid. You're on the bubble. Just take some back, right?" That's what I feel. So, I mean, the opposite of the bubble is depression. So, which would you rather have, bubble or depression?
Yeah, but it depends. If we all go into an industry which is in a bubble and it bursts, we should be prepared. Right?
Well, but see, the key is that it could burst, so you don't do stupid things. So what would be a stupid thing in a bubble, right? So a stupid thing in a bubble would be, for example, let's say that some VC hears your deal and says, "You know what? I love this idea so much. I love this idea so much. I'll give you a pre-money valuation of $10 million, and I'll invest $5 million." So you're thinking, how freaking real, right? Here's $5 million on this idea called Huddle. And you think, man, this is the best thing that ever happened, okay? So now you raise $5 million. The problem is, to make those people happy, you have to return 50 to 100 million. So you just entered into a life of indentured servitude with your crack dealer. That's not healthy. Okay, now don't get me wrong. Some people pay off their crack dealers. That happens every day, right? But at some point, it's not everybody who does that. So in this bubble, if somebody offered you $5 million for your idea, $10 million pre-money valuation, would I take it if I were you? No. Because quite frankly, you wouldn't know how to spend $5 million well. I don't know how I would spend, if I had your idea at $5 million, I don't know what I would do. I would put like $4.5 million into a CD. The problem with CDs is it's like 0.5% interest. And there's places in the world where you have to pay the bank to take your money now, right? Which is kind of bizarre. So as long as you realize you're in a bubble, don't get greedy, and then don't. Okay, so lots of things happen when you raise $5 million on a $10 million pre. So first of all, you don't know what to do with the money, but you sit there and you say, well, they gave us this money because they want us to scale. They want us to reach critical mass. They don't want us to put it in a CD earning -5% or 0.5%. So let's scale. So now let's run advertising in the Super Bowl, and let's hire like 3 teams of programmers, and let's buy everybody a Herman Miller chair, and we need a loft in Palo Alto, and we need a ping pong table, and we need free bus service with Wi-Fi to the city because we need our superstars who live in the city. All the millennials live in the city. Only old people live in Palo Alto, so we have to bus in the millennials, right? And so you spend all this $5 million. You think, yeah, because we got $5 million. We have to put this in play. And then the bubble bursts, and you're really screwed. So, thank God we're in a bubble. We just understand we're in a bubble. Yeah. Go ahead.
Alright.
So, what do you think about other countries trying to emulate or being the next Latin American Silicon Valley or next European Silicon Valley?
I think it's a stupid goal, and it's because there's so many things that are different about cultures, and that presumes the Silicon Valley that we know what we're doing and we're right, which is a big freaking assumption. Okay, so don't confuse luck and right. And so a lot of things happen in Silicon Valley, and I think the core of Silicon Valley is right here, or actually more like right there. The computer science department. So because of the computer science department and the engineering department, they started radio telescopes, we started HP and National Semiconductor and all that kind of stuff. So the core was Stanford. Lots of engineers. Engineers came up with great ideas, got funded, created great companies, and the rest is history, right? So, but I think many people outside of Silicon Valley, they look at Silicon Valley, they say, so their interpretation of what made Silicon Valley successful is, well, there's a thriving venture capital community. So we need to get like a lot of crack dealers in our, in Santiago, because Silicon Valley has venture capital, Silicon Valley is successful, we want to do it in Santiago, we need venture capital. So they create a venture capital fund. And they say, wow, they got Y Combinator in Silicon Valley, so we need, Santiago Combinator. So there's S Combinator in Santiago now. And they take all these things and they try to emulate all this stuff. Boy, I tell you, it's sort of based on the assumption that there was planning here, and that it's hard to separate correlation and causation. Okay, so a thriving venture capital community, does it cause or correlate high-tech success? Some people would say it causes it. It's the fuel for the engine. I'd probably make the case that it follows the success. And so it didn't cause the success. And so my fear when you ask a question like that is people look at what's currently in Silicon Valley and say, okay, so let's throw money at it. Let's make sure there's an infrastructure. Let's build incubators. And really, if there was one single thing I would do if I was trying to recreate Silicon Valley someplace, I would create the best engineering school that money could buy. And so, if I was the president of Chile, I would say, all right, so, what does an associate professor at Stanford make? I have no idea. What is 100,000, 200,000? I have no idea.
It's terrible. But for me,
Okay, so let's suppose that.
I mean, I'm nominally in engineering school.
Yeah.
My salary's not coming out.
Okay, so let's pretend an associate professor at Stanford makes 100 grand. Oh. Okay, let's just pretend, right? And so this is associate professor of computer science. So, now there's a cachet working at Stanford, right? So that's probably worth 50 grand. So could the University of Chile in Santiago recruit an entire group of fantastic computer science professors for $250,000 a year? Could they double Stanford's offer and get them? I bet you. Live in Chile, man. Wow, I would live there. It's so fantastic. It's the only South American country with highways that work. So I would just throw money at creating the best engineering school possible. But you know what? That's a long-term plan, because you build this engineering school that it takes 4 years for someone to graduate, and then it takes another 4 years for them to create a company. So it's like 8 or 10 years. But how many politicians are in office for 10 years? Yeah. So that's kind of the problem, right? And I don't want you to think that anybody back in the 1930s, the governor of California in 1930 did not sit down and say, we need a tech industry. So what are we going to do? Let's get some venture capitalists, get some PR people, get some biz dev people, have an MBA school, we'll be Silicon Valley. It's total bullshit. It was like Stanford nerds creating telescopes and oscilloscopes and stuff like that. So it's the engineering school. Yeah.
Who's your favorite character on Silicon Valley?
I gotta tell you, I don't watch Silicon Valley, because,
Or do you think it's an accurate representation of this?
I think think good TV probably has to be overly dramatic, right? So the assholes on TV really have to be assholes because it makes for good TV. So, for example, I love House of Cards. Okay, I love House of Cards. But do I truly believe that politicians are that evil? Do I think that Barack Obama pushed a reporter into a train? Do I think that Barack and Michelle and a Secret Service had a threesome? I'm not convinced of that, right? But that's what makes it possible. It's a little scary thought. So using the House of Cards, I would say that probably Silicon Valley is as accurate as House of Cards is about Washington. Right? It makes for great TV, and so I don't think that the evil is as evil. I don't think the insipidness is as insipid. But having said that, if it was really accurate, I don't think it would be that interesting, right? So it's like what was the movie based on Anne Wintour?
Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. So is she really that bad? But it made for a great movie. Maybe she is. I don't know. So.
Who's your favorite real life Silicon Valley character?
He's dead now. Of course, that would be Steve Jobs. Favorite real-life Silicon Valley character? Elon Musk, maybe. I don't even know Elon Musk. I never met Elon Musk, but at least the guy dreams big, right? Like sticking people in tubes and sending them to LA. I like that. I'm really into cars. Not that I have a good one, but the thought that an American company that's 10 years old has built a car that can hold 5 people, go 285 miles on a battery, go 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds for $150 grand. That's remarkable, right? That's truly remarkable. You'd have to spend $500,000 on a Ferrari or Lamborghini or Porsche to do the same kind of thing. And so I think he's the closest thing to Steve Jobs there is. What else? Yeah.
Well, why did you go to Iolani instead of Punahou?
Are you from Hawaii?
Yeah, I'm from Punahou.
Oh, you poor guy. You and Barack Obama couldn't get into Iolani.
I chose a better football program.
Do you play football here?
Yeah.
Yeah, what position?
Outside linebacker.
Outside linebacker. So what he's alluding to is that in Hawaii there are 2 high schools. And
Hey, Mariota went to St. Louis.
yeah, well, there's 3 now. Okay. So Punahou and Iolani are the rival schools, both private schools. Iolani, when I was there, was all boys, and Iolani and Punahou have this great rivalry. It's kind of like USC and Stanford, where Iolani is Stanford and Punahou is USC. No. I don't know why I went to Iolani. I don't even know if I applied to Punahou. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. It's a great growing up in Hawaii. Huh? Is that the best place in the world?
Yeah.
So you like some All-American? I don't follow football. You like some All-American first round draft pick?
Nah, All-American out of high school, trying to chase a dream now.
Yeah?
One
Yeah?
more year left.
What year are you?
Going on my senior year next year.
And you're going to be drafted?
That's my dream. So
Yeah.
draft days today. I got 1 year to train. So
Wow. Have you been to the combines and all that kind of stuff?
yeah,
What's your 40?
4.7.
But does a 40 really matter in the real? This is a good question. Like everybody, wow, the NFL measures you on a 40-yard dash, right? How often do you run a 40-yard dash in a game? I don't understand that either.
I'm all 10-yard bursts. So.
Yeah. And half of them go backwards. So.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Steve Jobs story?
Okay, favorite Steve Jobs story. So one day I'm in my cubicle, Steve Jobs shows up with this guy I never met in my life, and he says, "Hello, Steve. It's an educational software company. kind of mediocre, lousy interface, drill and practice, MS-DOS, doesn't use color, doesn't use mouse, doesn't use graphics, kind of boring, not really relevant for us. And he says, Guy, this is the CEO of Nowhere. Favorite Steve Jobs. So now let's just unpack that story. So first of all, I passed the Steve Jobs test because probably he knew that company was a piece of crap. And so if I had said it was a great company, I would have flunked the Steve Jobs test. And once you flunk the Steve Jobs test, it's very hard to get back. Okay, so I said the right thing. He set me up, but I said the right thing. I passed the test. And I'm sure that you learn or you read about all these great HR practices, kind of the eHarmony model where you meet with the people you work with, develop mutually acceptable goals, you meet with them constantly, get feedback, strive for these goals, all this touchy-feely, amazing kind of stuff, trust and love and all that stuff. And then there was Steve Jobs' method, which is he just scared the shit out of everybody. Steve Jobs would not hesitate in a meeting of the entire division of employees, including outsiders. He would do stuff like, who hired him? I want to know who hired him. Who hired this person? He's totally mediocre. I don't even know why he's at Apple. How did this guy get hired? He would do that in public. So you just never wanted to be that guy. So you worked your ass off because, God, someday, what if Steve Jobs says, well, who hired Guy? Why is Guy Kawasaki in this division? Who hired this guy? I live in total fear of that. So, contrary to everything you learn about HR, fear is a very powerful motivation. What else? You're not going to ask me anything anymore. Yeah. Either of them.
What are your thoughts on some of the accelerator programs and the advice that they're
Yeah, so accelerator programs. I think long and the short of it is they are neither necessary nor sufficient. Okay, so if you go into one, it doesn't mean you're made. You got it made. If you don't get into one, it doesn't mean you'll fail. There is a halo effect if you can say you were in Y Combinator, right? There's a halo effect of saying you were in 500 startups. I think there's a positive effect of being with other people, similar situation where you get to help each other. The person, Huddle could help another company, the other company could help them. With how do you do your Facebook post? Do you geo-target? Is it effective or whatever? Is a promoted pin better than a promoted Facebook post? So there's all that camaraderie and sharing of information. But as I said, I don't think it's necessary or sufficient. So if you apply and don't get in, don't slit your wrist, don't give up. If you give up and slit your wrist because of that, you're not an entrepreneur, by definition. So they can add value, but they're not going to make you.
They're going to take a percentage of your company.
They will take a percentage of your company, but okay. So there's good news and bad news of that. So I guess if you're in the position of someday you're Dropbox or Uber, and 10 years before, you sold 7% of your company for $50,000, and now that 7% is worth $1 billion, and you're like, God, that's so stupid. That's so freaking stupid. I sold 7% of my company for $50,000. On the other hand, just freaking knock on wood, that now you can say, I was so stupid. My company's worth $10 billion, and I sold off 7% for $50,000. That is a high quality problem. I would love to have that problem. My company's worth so much. I sold so much off for a small amount of money. Give me that problem once in my life. I can deal with that problem. So,
Is 7% the right number?
well, every number is negotiated, right? But it's kind of like that, right? If you succeed and you're the next Dropbox, you'll probably regret that. And if you fail, it won't matter. 7% of 0 is 0. So, if you sell 7% to an incubator, and you get the halo effect, and you meet people, and they help you, and honestly, the crux of the matter is that you created a company that's valuable, as opposed to you could have saved 7%. I would rather have 93% of a $10 billion company than 100% of a funked company. right? So, you know, your goal as an entrepreneur is not to optimize the amount of equity you have. Okay. So, you know, at the end of the day, you don't brag. Yeah, man, I'm a $20 million company, but I own 98%. And then, you know, Jerry Yang and Larry and Sergey, they say, yeah, you know, I own 6% of Google, and it's 250 billion. Which would you rather be? You know. That's the question. So what you should focus on is not preserving your equity. It is making a bigger pie. Because you want just a tiny sliver of a huge pie, which is very different than you own the whole little donut hole. Okay? What else? Yes.
Following up my previous question, and you told us that engineering is kind of the key thing. But what do you think does it take to other cities or countries to develop and create world-class and disruptive companies like they develop here?
Well, I mean, same answer, right? You need engineers, and you need people with clever ideas, and you need people who are willing to work hard. I don't think there's any magic there. I also, you know, I don't think that Silicon Valley has a monopoly on ingenuity. Not at all. And one concept I would like you to take back is that if you're from another country, you should aspire to something much higher than I want to be the fast copy of a Silicon Valley idea. Right? So I want to be the eBay of Santiago, or I want to be the Uber of Santiago. You know, I suppose that could work, but I think what you really want to do, the test for you is that the idea you come up with is so great that people in Silicon Valley say, I want to be the, whatever, Buenos Aires of Silicon Valley. So I want to, our idea was so great in Chile that people in Silicon Valley are copying it. That's the test. That's the test you should shoot for. Okay. Yes?
Can you just talk more about Steve Jobs' leadership style, I guess?
How much more you need to know? They screw the shit out of people.
Were there disgruntled employees or people that quit or maybe
Yeah, of course.
Is that really worth it? It's what about human dignity? Is it ethical? Did it go too far?
You need to man up.
Okay. Because I know people that have bosses like that, and so it affected our lives. So
honestly, you don't know people who have bosses like that because if you use a 2x2 matrix, okay, so you have to imagine this. So on the vertical axis, you have asshole, not asshole. On the horizontal axis, you have incompetent, competent. Okay? So there are lots of people in the incompetent asshole square. That's probably your friends working for those people. Okay? There are very few people who are competent, good people, nice people. Very few. There are more, but still very few, competent assholes. So the key is that you work for someone competent, asshole or not. That's far better than working for either a nice, incompetent person or an incompetent asshole. But the most populated of these four squares is incompetent asshole. So what I'm saying is it's very unlikely that your friends who are working for assholes are working for a Steve Jobs. They're working for assholes. Steve Jobs was a fantastically competent asshole. Very big difference. So, and I would not trade a minute of my experience with him for anything, because I consider it an honor and a privilege to work for him. Not easy, but I think in a sense it's kind of like teaching, where as you get older and older, I think you'll judge the teachers who are the hardest on you as the best. When you're in it right now, you may say, wow, Psych 1 is so easy. I love that professor. Right? It was a mick. No problem. But I think, 20 years from now, you say, wow, my best professor was Anne Grimes, because she drilled me. She just tore up my plan and all that. You do that? Yeah, good. So that's kind of how it is with bosses, and you should keep that in mind. So the goal is to be a very competent, nice person. That's the gold standard. But if you can't be that, and you have to be an asshole, at least be a competent asshole. The worst is an incompetent asshole. And so a lot of people cannot separate correlation and causation. So they look at the assholeness of Steve Jobs, like driving in the carpool lane, parking in the handicapped spot, asking, well, who the hell hired this bozo? So they look at that and say, oh, so that's what it takes to be Steve Jobs. That's the easy part to emulate. Anybody can drive in the carpool lane, anybody can park in the handicapped spot, anybody can drill people in public, right? But they don't have the other side of Steve Jobs, which is the vision and the taste and the courage and the reality distortion field. That's what separates Steve Jobs. So, yes.
All right, we're almost out of time, so two
We
more,
are?
two more questions.
God, it's been an hour already? Did we start at 4?
Start a little bit.
Wow. Another year goes by. Yeah.
So we've been thinking a lot about competitors for all of our ideas that we're
Yeah.
looking for. And do you think that it's a better sign of future success to have a lot of competitors because it shows that a lot of other people are excited about the same
Yes.
idea?
Yes.
Or do you
Okay.
think it's a better
Yes.
sign?
Okay. So, in my humble opinion, you want a healthy number of competitors. The problem with saying we have no competition is there's usually only a couple conclusions from that statement. One is you are so freaking clueless you cannot even use Google to figure out who you're competing with, which is not a good sign. It's not conducive to investment. The other is that you are totally delusional. And another is there's no competition because there's no market, right? So I think you need a healthy collection of competitors. And then it's a question of how you spin that. So my suggestion for you is that you create the so-called matrix, right? And my spin on the matrix is that everybody has a matrix that has the competitor's name and you have the qualities here. Guess what? Your column is the one with all the check marks. Like, what a coincidence, right? Duh, right? So we're scalable, we're easy to use, we're hardworking, we're Stanford grads, we drive electric cars, we check all the boxes, right? So that's kind of total bullshit because everybody's matrix always has their column checks off the most boxes. So the matrix that's really interesting is you do one that says, this is what we can do and they cannot do. And then you have one even better, which is, this is what they can do and we cannot do. Because when you put up a matrix that shows what your competition can do and you cannot do, it means that you are intellectually honest. And if you're intellectually honest, that is a good sign. Because then when you say something, people will believe you. But if you're lying all the time, they're not going to believe you. So you need to say, so it's all a matter of spin, right? And so you need to, if you were competing with Uber, you need to acknowledge that Uber exists. And you look like an idiot. You say, well, we don't have any competition in rideshare. Hello, what rock have you been living in, right? But you have to have some spin on Uber that, this is what Uber can do and we cannot do, and this is what we can do that Uber cannot do. That's the way to handle competition. Okay. What else? Yes?
Do you have any tips for creating like a healthy and productive critique culture within a startup?
Well, I think the start of a healthy critique culture is that you hire people who complement you as opposed to duplicate you. So I think one of the great dangers in a tech startup is, engineers hire more engineers. But fundamentally in a startup, there's only really two functions. Somebody has to make it and somebody has to sell it. Right? So Woz makes it, Jobs sells it. And if we had two Wozes, you wouldn't have heard of Apple today. And if we had two Jobs, we wouldn't have heard of Apple today. You needed a Woz and a Job. So I think the core of that is that you have people with different skills. So I think the optimal number is 3, which is someone who makes it, someone who sells it, and someone who's adult supervision. That's the three most important components of a startup. And then if you have that, I think you'll have an environment conducive to it. Second point I would make is that the better the CEO, the more comfortable CEO is hiring people who are better than himself or herself. And if you're a lousy CEO and you want to be the best engineer, best sales, best finance, best ops, best marketing, you're going to have a mediocre company. It should be a point of pride if you're a CEO that, you know, the guy I hired to run engineering is better than I am. The finance person is better than I am. The sales person is better than I am. The ops person, everybody I have on my team is better than me. That should be your goal. That is a fantastic company. What else? Oh, you know, I also have a gift for you. How many? Do any of you know about Canva already? Do you ever need you? Okay, so you gotta try Canva. Okay? You just have to trust me. So Canva is an online graphics design service, and it just enables you to create these fantastic designs and social media. Every once in a while, you may have to pay $1 for a stock photo or a design. So these are coupons for $10. So now I'm giving you $10 worth of credit of Canva. Trust me when I tell you, you know, for any startup, marketing is about 80% of the battle. Okay? And 80% of the 80% is social media. Because social media is fast, and it's free, and it's everywhere. And 80% of social media, which now we're at 80% of the 80% of the 80%, 80% of social media is you've got to have beautiful graphics. Because graphics, the avatar graphics, the cover photo, and graphics on every post sets you apart from everybody else. Canva is the gateway to great graphics. Okay? You can make great graphics in Canva faster than you can do Photoshop. I promise you. What else? Any more? I'm not in any particular class. Oh, okay. Well. All right. Thank you.